From the moment we are born, we are introduced to a world that operates through symbols of status, competition, and hierarchy. We are taught, either directly or silently, that power belongs to those who possess more wealth, more followers, more achievements, more control. From childhood, the mind is conditioned to seek approval and recognition from others. Every reward, every punishment, every label given becomes a subtle thread in the web that ties your sense of self to the opinions and standards of the outside world. You are taught to perform, to conform, to seek applause. But this is not power. It is dependence masked as success. Power that comes from external sources is like standing on shifting sand. The job can be lost. The money can run out. The applause fades. The trends change. If your identity is built on these things, then your power is always fragile, always at risk of being taken away. And so you live in quiet fear. You defend your image. You compare constantly. You seek more and more, hoping that one day you'll finally feel secure. But true power doesn't require protection. It doesn't waver when circumstances change. It doesn't ask for permission to exist. It arises from within, like a mountain that does not move with the wind. This illusion of external power is not simply a personal misunderstanding. It is a collective design. Societies, institutions, and systems are often structured to reward those who comply and to punish those who question. When you place your value in their hands, they control you. They decide what is acceptable, what is desirable, what is powerful. And so you obey, not out of wisdom, but out of fear. You suppress your own voice in order to fit the mold. But in doing so, you also suppress the source of your true strength, your awareness, your discipline, your inner clarity. The more you chase after the illusions, the more disconnected you become from your essence. You begin to believe that your worth depends on how others see you and not on how deeply you know yourself. Temptation. You feel powerless, not because you lack strength, but because you've been trained to look for it in the wrong place. Every scroll through a screen, every comparison you make, every time you silence your instincts in order to please someone else, you give away a piece of your power. This is the truth that was hidden, that your greatest strength comes not from how loud your voice is in the world, but from how still your mind is within yourself. Reclaiming your power requires the courage to question what you were taught. It requires stepping back from the constant noise and asking yourself, what am I truly seeking? Approval, control, validation, or freedom, because these are not the same. The one who is free does not need to dominate others or chase recognition. The one who is free is grounded, centered, and unshakable in the face of both praise and criticism. This freedom comes from self-knowledge, from discipline, and from the decision to stop chasing shadows. You were never told that the most powerful person in any room is not the one with the loudest voice or the most influence. It is the one who does not need the room at all, the one who has made peace with themselves, the one who has trained their mind and body so well that their presence commands respect without ever needing to ask for it. That presence is not developed overnight. It is forged in solitude, in breath, in discipline, in silence, and in the courage to walk away from illusions, even when the world worships them. In the modern world, disconnection is not an accident. It is engineered, layered, that temptation, and embedded into daily life so subtly that most people never realize it's happening. Every moment you are pulled away from your own breath, your own body, your own awareness, you are also pulled away from your power. You are led to believe that your attention is something casual, something harmless to scatter across screens, conversations, and headlines. But attention is not casual, it is currency. And where your attention flows, your life follows. When your attention is hijacked, your inner balance is lost. This is how power is stolen without force. Every noise, every notification, every comparison, every distraction is part of a larger pattern. A pattern that keeps your focus scattered and your energy divided. You are trained to stay busy, to keep moving, to respond immediately. Rest is labeled as laziness. Silence is considered awkward. Stillness is mistaken for weakness. But none of this is true. The truth is, the more distracted you become, the easier you are to influence. The more reactive your mind, the less space there is for clarity and strength. Disconnection is not just about being apart from others. It is about being apart from your own presence. There is a profound intelligence within you, but you will not hear it when you are surrounded by noise. You will not feel it when you are constantly comparing yourself to others. And you will not access it when you are disconnected from your body. The disconnection is spiritual, physical, mental, and emotional. It begins when you no longer notice how you breathe, when you forget how to sit without checking your phone, when you fear silence more than noise, and when you trust external opinions more than your inner knowing. The system thrives on your disconnection. A distracted person cannot focus deeply. A disconnected person cannot listen to their own intuition. A restless mind cannot resist manipulation. When you do not know yourself, you are forced to rely on the definitions given to you by others. You become dependent on trends to tell you what is valuable, on opinions to shape your self-worth, on external sources to give you direction. You no longer act from wisdom. You react from conditioning. And that conditioning keeps you in a loop of seeking, needing, and never quite arriving. But there is another way. It begins when you reclaim your attention, when you decide to return to your breath, to your senses, to your inner space. It is not a dramatic act. It is quiet, steady, and intentional. When you walk without your phone, when you eat without distraction, when you sit and simply observe your thoughts without chasing them. These small acts of presence are revolutionary because in a world that profits from your distraction, your stillness becomes a form of resistance. You begin to see how much of your life has been shaped by things that do not serve you. You start to notice how easily your emotions are influenced when you are not grounded. You become aware of how often you speak without awareness, move without intention, and consume without discernment. Temptation. And in that awareness, you begin the process of reconnection. You start to feel the strength in your own spine again. You start to hear the silence between your thoughts. You start to trust the quiet voice that rises only when the noise subsides. Reconnection is not about adding more. It is about removing what was never necessary. It is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering the clarity that was buried beneath the layers of distraction. It requires effort, patience, and practice. But with each breath taken in awareness, you reclaim what was lost. With each moment of silence you honor, you return to your center. And with every distraction you refuse to serve, you take a step closer to your true power. In a world that moves faster each day, stillness has become something rare, misunderstood, and often feared. People rush from one task to another, caught in an endless loop of doing. They fill their lives with noise, motion, and constant stimulation. Not because they must, but because they have forgotten how to be still. Stillness is now seen as unproductive, as passive, as lacking ambition. But that perception is not a reflection of truth. It is a symptom of a distracted society. Stillness, when practiced with awareness, is not an absence of power. It is its foundation, because only in stillness does the mind become sharp, the breath becomes steady, and the spirit become unshakable. Stillness is not simply sitting without movement. Temptation, it is not the absence of activity on the outside. It is the presence of intention on the inside. It is a cultivated discipline, a training ground for mental clarity, emotional balance, and inner control. The temptation, in stillness, you learn to watch your thoughts without reacting to them. You learn to feel discomfort without immediately fleeing from it. You discover how often you are driven by unconscious patterns and how to interrupt them with presence. And this is the beginning of self-mastery, and it starts with the stillness most people try to avoid. There is a reason why silence makes people uncomfortable. In the silence, the truth begins to speak. You begin to hear the thoughts that have been buried under layers of distraction. You notice the restlessness in your body, the tension in your jaw, the racing of your heart. You face everything you have been running from, not through confrontation, but through observation. Stillness reveals what motion hides. And once you begin to see clearly, the process of transformation begins. You are no longer a puppet of your habits. You become the observer, the guide, the steady hand behind the action. In this stillness, you begin to build the inner architecture of strength. You develop patience, not as a weakness, but as a precision tool. You develop restraint, not to suppress emotion, but to refine your response. You temptation. You learn that reacting to everything steals your energy, while observing everything sharpens your power. You do not need to fight every battle. You do not need to prove your worth to every doubter. The one who knows their strength does not need to display it. The one who is still does not need to shout. This is why stillness is feared by those who seek control. A still mind cannot be manipulated. A calm person cannot be provoked when you are rooted in silence. No storm can uproot you. Your decisions are no longer reactions to fear or pressure. They are chosen with clarity from a place of inner alignment. This is what turns stillness into a weapon, not against others, but against confusion, doubt, and chaos. It becomes a shield against distraction, a sword that cuts through illusion, a fortress that no outside force can breach. The one who practices stillness carries a different energy. They walk without hurry. They speak with purpose. Their presence is felt without needing to be explained. Because in the quiet hours, away from noise and attention, they have trained their mind like a warrior trains his body. They have sat with discomfort until it no longer controls them. They have observed their own fears until those fears lost their grip. And they have listened deeply to their breath till even silence became a source of wisdom. Stillness is not just a break from movement. It is the beginning of awareness. In stillness, you learn that not everything requires your reaction. Not every challenge needs your fight. Not every opinion deserves your energy. You begin to conserve your strength, to choose your battles, and to walk through life with deliberate calm. You become immovable, not because you resist change, but because you are grounded in something deeper than the surface of experience. From the earliest stages of life, most human beings are conditioned, not taught. Conditioning does not ask you to think. It trains you to respond. It rewards obedience, not awareness. It praises repetition, not reflection. You are told what is right, what is wrong, what is acceptable, what is forbidden. Slowly, without realizing it, your mind is shaped into a pattern of reactions. You respond to praise with attachment. You respond to criticism with fear. You are led to believe that to be good is to conform, and to be accepted is to be silent. This is not wisdom. It is programming. You begin to navigate life by following invisible scripts handed to you by culture, family, media, and institutions. You are told what success looks like, what beauty means, what strength is supposed to feel like. These definitions are not born from your own experience. They are imposed upon you. And so you move through life chasing ideals that may never align with your soul. You make decisions not based on clarity, but based on fear of judgment. You adopt beliefs not because they resonate, but because they are safe. Over time, the authentic voice within you becomes faint. You begin to mistake familiarity for truth and comfort for alignment. Conditioning teaches you to react when you feel insulted, to react when you are praised, to react when your boundaries are tested. These reactions are automatic, unconscious, and habitual. They are not rooted in choice. They are triggered responses stored in the nervous system, reinforced by repetition. A conditioned mind acts not from the present moment, but from the residue of past impressions. It does not pause. It does not question. It does not observe. It simply follows a well-worn path of emotion and memory, mistaking it for reality. But consciousness is different. Consciousness is awareness before reaction. It is the space between stimulus and response. It is the ability to observe the emotion without becoming it, to feel the trigger without being enslaved by it. Consciousness is not just thinking, it is seeing clearly. Without distortion, it is presence. And presence is power. When you are conscious, you are no longer dragged by your moods or opinions. You become the one who watches, the one who decides, the one who responds with wisdom, not habit. The gap between conditioning and consciousness is bridged by discipline. The discipline to pause, to reflect, to question. You begin to ask yourself, why do I believe this? Who benefits from me thinking this way? Is this my truth or a version of truth I inherited? These questions are not signs of rebellion. They are signs of awakening. The more you question, the more you strip away what is not yours. The more you observe, the more you discover what was placed upon you. And in that discovery, you begin to reclaim the parts of yourself that were buried under layers of programming. Consciousness reveals that your thoughts are not you. They are visitors, passing clouds in the sky of your awareness. You are the sky, not the storm. And so you no longer fear your own emotions. You do not suppress them, but you do not serve them either. You study them. You understand them. You learn from them. This is self-mastery. Not control through suppression, but clarity through awareness. When the mind becomes clear, the path becomes visible. And when the path is visible, your actions begin to align with your inner truth. The world often rewards conditioned responses. It feels safe when people follow the script, but true strength does not lie in obedience. It lies in awareness. The one who acts from consciousness walks a different path, quiet, deliberate, and unwavering. We are not driven by the need to be liked, nor swayed by the fear of being misunderstood. Their choices arise from stillness, not noise. Their words carry weight, not because they shout, but because they are rooted in clarity. This is the difference between living by default and living by design. Between being a product of your past and becoming the author of your present. There is a moment in life, not always loud, not always dramatic, when a person feels the quiet emptiness that comes from being disconnected from themselves. That moment is not the beginning of weakness, but the call to awakening. It is the realization that something essential has been forgotten. You have been so busy becoming who others expect you to be that you no longer recognize who you truly are. The journey of reclaiming your power does not begin by seeking something new. It begins by remembering something ancient, something already within you, buried but never broken. From a young age, you were shaped, trained, guided away from your inner knowing. You were taught to doubt your instincts, to look outside for validation, to silence your emotions in favor of logic or acceptance. The voice of your intuition, once clear and confident, became faint through years of dismissal. Your curiosity was replaced by rules. Your creativity was molded into conformity. You began to live according to other people's definitions of success, of worth, of strength. And the more you adapted to survive in this world, the more distant you became from the truth within you. But that truth never disappears. It waits beneath the layers of roles and responsibilities. It waits behind the smiles you give when you feel pain. It waits in the quiet moments when you are alone and no longer performing for the world. That truth is your original self, uncorrupted by fear, untouched by comparison, unshaken by opinion. It is the part of you that remembers your worth without needing to prove it. Reclaiming your power means returning to this essence, not creating a new identity, but shedding the false ones. This return is not about noise. It is not about loud declarations or sudden rebellion. It is subtle, disciplined, and sacred. It happens in the early hours when you choose silence over distraction. It happens when you say no to what does not serve you, even if your voice trembles. It happens when you begin to listen more deeply, breathe more consciously, and move with intention. These small acts, repeated over time, begin to clear away the dust of conditioning. They allow the truth to rise, not from outside, but from within. To remember who you are is to remember your ability to direct your own energy, to decide your own pace, to create your own inner space. You no longer measure your value by comparison or popularity. You no longer chase things that only serve your ego while starving your soul. Instead, you begin to live in alignment with your breath, your principles, your purpose. And in that alignment, you find a power that no one can give you and no one can take away. This remembering requires courage, because once you see clearly, you can no longer pretend. You can no longer hide behind the roles you were taught to play. You must face the habits that once kept you numb. You must meet the fears you once avoided. But you do so not with force, but with presence. You confront, you reflect, and you choose differently. And in that choice, you reclaim something sacred. Your energy, your voice, your rhythm. This journey is not about perfection. It is not about reaching some flawless state. It is about consistency. It is about showing up each day, even when it is difficult. It is about honoring the truth within you, even when it contradicts the world around you. And the more you live from that truth, the stronger it becomes. You begin to remember that the real power was never in how much you controlled, but in how deeply you connected to yourself, to your breath, to your own unwavering center. Others may not understand this path. That does not matter. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to walk your own path with clarity, to live from a place of authenticity, and to reclaim the parts of you that were lost in the noise of survival. This is the path of remembering, and every step you take on it brings you closer to the quiet, calm, focused force that has always lived within you. The journey of reclaiming your power is not about becoming someone new. It is about stripping away everything that was never truly yours. That temptation, it is about seeing through the illusion that power exists outside of you and realizing that it was always within. The world conditioned you to chase validation, to obey without question, to stay distracted, and to suppress your natural wisdom. But the moment you begin to observe rather than react, to be still rather than rush, to reconnect rather than escape, that is the moment you begin to return home to yourself. Your stillness becomes your strength. Your awareness becomes your weapon. And your breath becomes your anchor. In a society built on noise and distraction, choosing silence, discipline, and presence is an act of power. This power is not loud. It does not seek applause. It does not need to control others. It simply is calm, steady, unshakable. And once you touch it, once you remember it, no one can take it from you. You do not need permission to awaken. You do not need approval to realign. You only need to remember that the most powerful version of yourself is already within you, waiting for you to be quiet enough, still enough, and brave enough to return.